shows the closing date and volumes. Ben and Franklin's, Joseph V. Barrows, Alex Estrin, Honorable Carmen Mitchell, Honorable Carrie L. Rung, Honorable Jacqueline Shee Brown, Honorable Bruce A. Spanner, Honorable Samuel P. Swanberg. And that's Stephanie Jordan Main at the division Muslick with a Ford SUV Trailblazer with Stephanie Main Jordan from Fred Washington, and that's Daniel Garth at Daniel Garth Administration Office, and then the courtroom, and also the accident report and the collision report where I was hit and ran over it at a crosswalk. And pedestrians have the right of way. And Mr. Swanberg, Samuel Swanberg, has it says Honorable Christian, has Honorable Samuel P. Swanberg at the bottom. It says Kennewick, Washington. And the department license is upstairs, and they're processing information on the first and last of the Social Security office at 8131 Klamath, and also the Social Security office that's on Gage Boulevard. Two different locations on Gage, and then the third time is on Klamath, 8131 Klamath, Cincinnati. Now, King County has Honorable Veronica Alicia Galvin, Seattle. Honorable Chad Calvert. Honorable Susan H. Emma. Honorable John Bender, Seattle, Washington. King County. Honorable Monica J. Benton. Honorable Elizabeth J. Burns. Honorable Bill Bowen. Honorable Timothy A. Bradshaw. Honorable Regina C. Sean. Honorable Cheryl B. Curry, Honorable James D. Casey, Honorable Susan J. Cranhag, Honorable Andrea A. Darvis, Honorable J. Mitchell Diaz, Honorable Karen M. Donahue, Karen M. Donahue, Honorable Teresa B. Dow, Honorable John P. Ellick, Honorable Marshall F. Ferguson, Honorable Nicole Gaines Phelps, Honorable Julie L. Garrett, Honorable Janet M. Helson, Honorable Laura C. Everson David, Honorable David S. Kennan, Honorable Dean Scott Loon, Honorable Barbara A. Mack, Honorable Leroy McCall, Honorable John F. McHale, Honorable Maureen McCaffey, Honorable Catherine L. Moore, Honorable Douglas A. North, Honorable Sean Patrick O'Donnell, Honorable Patrick H. Osei, Honorable Susan Person, Honorable Mafi Rahu, Honorable Judith M. Ramsey, Honorable Christian V. Richardson, Honorable Jean A. Ritchell, Honorable Mary E. Roberts, Honorable Jim Rogers Robert, Honorable Roger Rogoff, Honorable Stephen B. Rawson, Honorable Everett A. Brothwick, Honorable John Rao, Honorable J. Wesley St. Clair, Honorable Ken Shepard, Honorable Michael R. Scott, Honorable Catherine D. Schaefer, Honorable Julie A. Spector, Honorable Tanya Thorpe, Honorable Sandra E. Edwin, Honorable Matthew E. Williams, Honorable Melinda J. Young. And this is the King County, Seattle, Washington Judges of Superior Courts. Benton County has Bank County, Franklin, M. Barrows, Kennewick. Honorable Alex Ickerson, Kennewick, Washington. Honorable Carmen and She Brown. Honorable Bruce E. Swanberg. Cases reported, which is cases reported is ADDA Group LLC, Defense Film, Admiral Way LLC, International Specialty Lines, INC, Admiral Way LLC, AM, Aloha versus OHA Construction INC versus Aldrich and of Alexander in marriage of RV Park, Allen and Zonas, Allery, Alvarez State, AM Hotel Lodging versus City of Seattle. International Specialty Lines, Core Admiral Way LLC, AM and Special Lines, Coal Industries versus Angus State, AP, partnering in support of ARP versus Askin Friends Bank Associates International Group LLC, Bay Muns Turner LLC versus Basins versus Taylor, Bargain State versus Bus State versus Bellingham Square LLC, Foods Market Foods, Bergeson versus Brana, Zupert Tex Yachts, Woods and Bahana, Bracken Milconis, Brannett State versus Resistant of Brevis Consultant LC State versus Bruto Persistent Restraints of Bucker versus Pasco School District, Bergstrom versus Bush State versus Butcher State versus C Department Detention of CLL State versus Carmen Ralston versus Carroll, and re-proceedings review of Cassidy Guardianship Services Dispute and Most Social and Health Services, Castillo Vasquez State versus CC and Detent of Kappa State versus CF State versus Capero State versus Cohen a remarriage of Chow versus Department of Health, East Wenatchee Sheets, City of Kirtland versus Rite Aid Corporation, City of Kirtland versus Rite Aid Corporation, City of Seattle Hotel Lodging Association versus City of Seattle Gamble versus State of Sonoma versus Rubin Plan, and Assistance Annexing versus City of Tumwater Sunrises versus Coleman State versus Conway State versus Cook State versus Cortez Mendez State versus Critchfield State versus Cross and Cruz State versus Cunningham versus Department of Health Services, Dan and Bill's RV Arcs Allen State versus District Department of Health Tonson, Labor Industries, Department of Labor's Industries, Lance Douglas, Department of Labor, Polka INC, Department of Labor Industries, Power City Electric versus Department of Labor versus Department of Revenue Service Cascade Guardianship Service versus Department of Social Service Cunningham versus Department of Social Health Services versus FW, Social Health Services versus JJJ, Self Services versus Dishes State versus Ditchfin LLC ADD, Douglas County and Marlowe, Desi State, State, DWD, DWC State versus East Wenatchee State. of Espadol, Estate Sullivan, Stafford Health Services, Hangar Owners Association, Berry Payments, Department of Revenue, Fireside Baker Boyer National Bank, Ferry Superior Restraints of Fuji Foods, INC, Occidental LLC, FW Department of Social Services, Fuji Foods, INC versus Occidental LLC, Gamble versus CB Dependency of GR Department of Social Health Services, Port Safe Acquisitions LLC versus Godfrey versus Confield versus Mitchell's Wine Ltd. Gonzalez State versus Goodman Parson versus Gold Miles versus Galileo Reyes State versus Graham and Marcos, Green RJS Parnell Rights versus Hall State versus Hainfield King County versus Harness State versus Health Department of Chow, Health Department of Town versus Herd and versus Hernandez State versus Harry State, Restraints of NIK dependencies, the dependents of dependents of HHA, EJ, dependency UDW, CC, detention Reamer, States of Sullivan, Guardianship of Aldridge, the marriage of Lodge, marriage of Child, of Lanford, marriage of Misk, marriage of Richard, marriage of Rudwick, marriage of Tilmaki, parents' rights of G. Key State versus Kennel General Hospital. Kennel General Hospital, Kennel versus Seattle Mum. Current 6 kilos of the Owners Association with 2.2 is a kilo. King County, Hanfield, King Court, City of Racing, State versus Kingston Worksman, Knights of Restraints, enters a K. Labor and Industries, Department of Lance, Labor and Industry Department of Othello, Labor of Industries Power City Election, Labor and Industry Department of Lacey Tiller, Langley Marriage, and Special Lines, Laker, INC, IM, State, Lemon, State, Lewis, State, Lopez, Casino, Town of Cross, State versus Margaret Doug County, Market State, Martin Percent State of Market State of McCarthy State, Pissy Margaret State, Milligan Sager Mendez versus Bracken, Milk Marriage, Miles Gold State, Morris State, Moxie City of Construction of INC versus Munn Erickson versus Neighbors Against Annex City of Salt County, Boundary State versus Nickerson Guardianship of Nielsen Potato Patch, Norberg State, LC Fuji Foods INC, Magi, Marriage and OLYMPIA of Parson Rucker versus Peregrine Department versus State, Peterson State, propensity restraints department, Dotson versus Pearson. Distance, PNC Bank, Pole State Farm, Procut Concrete Cutting, Breaking Iron versus Reeves, Reminder Department. Standard, Richard Marriage, Sub, Rosa Burns, Safe Acquisition, SDF, Dependency of Seattle, CLC, Sheets of City, East Wenatchee State, Health Services Department, Cunning, Health Service, Self-Service Department, G, Service at Pegron, this is LCC, Company, Alvarez, State versus Anderson, State versus Anguson, State versus Banger, State versus Bay, State versus Bell, State versus Ballanius, State versus Brand, State versus Burke, State versus Bush, State versus Butcher, State versus State versus F, State versus Coleman, State versus Cortez Munduz, State versus Couch, State versus Kurzweil, State versus Cruz, State versus Davis, State versus Delphi, State versus Demon, State versus Delca, State versus Flair, State versus Gomez, State versus Gonzalez, State versus Gaudero Reyes, State versus Green, State versus Field, State versus Hall, State versus Hernandez, State versus Hire, State versus Jackson, State versus Carnes, State versus KDM, State versus Limited Landmarks, State versus Petters, Peterson, State versus Phillips, Quintina, State versus Russell, State versus Richard, State Schultz, State versus Vasquez versus Schwartz, Shubakana, State versus Thacker, State versus Trey, State versus Turner, State Tyler, State versus Ambina, Palmer, State versus Whitaker, State Williams, State Winner, State versus Yates, Westmell, State versus Biswell, State versus Michelle, State Stanford Health Services, Sullivan versus the State, Sullivan City Neighbors against Annex, Commodity of Land Side, Awareness versus Sunrise Ridge Highland Hill, Homeowner Association City Tumwater, Tacoma City of West versus Taylor State versus Taylor Baines versus Tecumseh Marriage versus Thacker State, Thurgan State, Thomas Hartwell, Thompson's Province Review, Thompson's 8 Props, in the state of Thompson Waters Homeowners Association, Turks United States, Auto State, Arbrina USA versus Walmart State, State Forest Practice B, Landside Awareness, Whitaker State versus Bellevue Square LLC versus Williams State versus Woodford Restraints, Worksman Lixman, W States, State Association, United State, Durgerson, LLC, AMC Lenore Industries USA, Ziller State. These Court of Appeals, 5th, 2008, State of Washington, John Allen Whitaker. As criminal jury instruction says, sufficient for preeminent, indefinite, argued the theories do not mislead the jury when